Boys, fellas, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the stream. Um, I just got to do my normal things. We're streaming a little bit earlier today. I'll go right into it in a second. I can open it. Oh, man, this always happens every stream. Let's open this up. There we go. Let's just set this quickly. There we go. Let's do that quickly. Okay, make sure everything's working properly. There we go. Okay. One more thing, boys. Just bear with me for a second. Let's do this. Okay, what's going on, fellas? Welcome back to the stream. I know the stream's a little bit of an earlier stream today than normal. We're streaming at 6:30 Eastern time today. Normally we stream at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm only streaming a little bit earlier today because I have something to do later. But yeah, a little bit of an earlier stream today. What's going on, MB? Welcome to the stream. Taporia Goat. Let's go. Let's go. I definitely could get there. But yeah, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about before we really get into things. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So obviously, first of all, we have this card coming up this weekend. It's officially fight week. Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. The card itself is whatever, but it should be a fun one. But really, some of the news I wanted to talk about was this first. Dana White was talking about how this UFC White House card is going to be like the Sphere on steroids. I think it's going to be very good. There's obviously a lot of incentive to make this card really good. It's a completely new thing. It's a completely new venue. And obviously the UFC is going to stack this card. So I'm fully expecting 2 title fights on this card, a ridiculously stacked card. And, it's something that I think the UFC needs at the same time, just because, the UFC has been a little bit boring as of late, honestly. So, just to inject a really exciting card, a really fun card, a really cool event or whatever will be a very good thing for the UFC. So obviously they're working on it pretty early. We're basically a year out from this card potentially happening. So it'll be pretty cool for sure. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, not really too much news, whatever, but Alex Pereira's at 243. So there's a lot of questions. Is Pereira going to move up to heavyweight? I'm assuming this is probably what's going to happen for Alex. I'm assuming he's going to rematch Ankalaev. If he wins, I think he'll move up to heavyweight. And if he loses, I don't know. If he loses, maybe he either retires or maybe he'll still move up to heavyweight. I think there's a real chance he retires, though, if he loses to Ankalaev again. But we'll see what happens for Pereira. It always seems like every time we see Pereira get on scales, he's like another weight class above where he was previous. Like, for example, when he was fighting at middleweight, whenever he got on the scales, he was like, the size of a light heavyweight. And now that he's at light heavyweight, it seems like he's the size of a heavyweight. So it always seems like, he's getting, bigger and bigger, I guess, which is kind of funny to say or to see, I guess. But yeah, in terms of news, that's really it. Outside of that, just wanted to talk a little bit about, this week's card, upcoming fights. In terms of bets, I gave out a couple of free bets yesterday. Obviously, props didn't come out yet. They'll probably come out either tomorrow or Thursday. There's probably going to be some more value on some of those props. But in terms of money line, there's not too much that I like, but there's a couple. I already gave it out yesterday, but I might as well quickly go over with you guys again if you guys haven't seen it yesterday. So picks that I like for this upcoming week is Max Holloway money line. I do think Max is going to win. I like Patricio Pitbull, actually. I think this is a decent stylistic matchup for him, just because Dan Ige pressures a lot and does leave a decent amount of openings. And Pitbull against Yair obviously wasn't a good performance, but Yair does a much better job at keeping range, utilizing kicks, not leaving too many openings. And I think that's really why Pitbull struggled a lot. But against a guy like Dan Ige, who's going to, press forward, throw a lot of punches, leave probably a decent amount of openings, I think it's a pretty good stylistic matchup for Patricio Pitbull. So I like the value there. In terms of the prelims, one other fight that I like is Prado. I think even at minus 156, the value is not bad. And the other one that I really like is Vinicius Oliveira. My two most confident plays on this card in terms of the betting wise is Vinicius Oliveira and Max Holloway. Those are my two most confident plays. Now, we'll see what happens. I actually have a video coming out about, my Max Holloway video is already out. Check that out if you haven't seen it. But I have a video coming out about Vinicius Oliveira tomorrow, actually, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So be on the lookout for that. So yeah, those are the two guys that I really like. Also, I'm very confident that Kevin Holland's going to win this weekend, but at minus 440, there's no real value there. Maybe on the props, maybe submission or something like that, there might be some value, but in terms of the money line, there's nothing there. But yeah, those are some of the plays I like for this upcoming weekend. But yeah, so we have this card. We'll see what happens on this card. As I said a couple times already, the card itself is not stacked or anything like that. It's not a card that people are going to be looking forward to, for weeks or months out, of course. But I think when we're actually at fight night and we're actually watching these fights, I think a lot of these fights are actually going to be surprisingly entertaining. Like, for example, I think all the fights on the main card are probably going to be pretty good. Holloway versus Dustin is almost guaranteed to be fun. Paulo Costa versus Kopylov, I think, has a good chance to be fun. Holland versus D-Rod, guaranteed finish, I think, for Holland, round 1 or 2. Ige versus Pitbull, although Pitbull is ridiculously patient, I think Ige is going to force a high-paced fight and force a fun fight out of Pitbull. Michael Johnson versus Zellhuber is going to be fun. Michael Johnson usually goes for it, and so does Zellhuber. The speed of Michael Johnson against Zellhuber's youth and honestly better ability. And then even on the prelims, Vinicius Oliveira versus Kyler Phillips, I think that has a real chance to be very fun as well. Kyler Phillips is usually pretty good early on. I think he's going to do a great job at throwing a lot of shots early. But as the fight does progress, I think Vinicius is going to start to pull ahead. Kyler Phillips also does gas out a little bit, so I think that one's going to be fun. Brett, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Thought Costa fight was off. It was off for last week, or not last week, for the last card. It was supposed to be on UFC 317. I believe it was supposed to be. Yeah. So it was supposed to be on UFC 317. The fight was canceled. I believe Paulo had an injury, or I don't even know what happened. But they rescheduled it to this weekend, UFC 318. So that's what happened with Paulo. But, with Paulo, you never know. He has a million fight cancellations. So until I actually see him walk out, you never know if he's going to pull out last second. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, he's supposed to fight this weekend as, the co-main event of a pay-per-view, when Paulo's a number 13th ranked guy against the number 14th ranked guy in Kopylov, which I think is a little ridiculous for a pay-per-view. But regardless, as I said, I think the fight itself could be pretty fun. Dude leaves a lot of money on the table. He does. He pulls out so many fights. I was actually just looking over it yesterday. The amount of fights this guy pulled out of is actually insane. Might as well put it up on the screen here. Just looking at Paulo Costa. I don't know how accurate this one is. What did I want to show? Yeah, so this one, it says UFC 319. This fight was canceled, but they're fighting on UFC 318. So I guess I won't really count that one. But in terms of fight cancellations this year, there's already been one. He was supposed to fight on UFC 317. Last year, okay, no fight cancellations, but in 2023 he had 3 fight cancellations against Whitaker, against Ikram, and against Hamzat. It's pretty crazy, actually. He didn't fight at all in 2023. They were all cancellations. In 2022 he had 1 cancellation. 2021 nothing. 2020 nothing. and before that, I guess nothing. But or 2018, he had one. But as of late, it just seems like this guy just pulls out of like almost every fight. It's almost unfortunate. Um, but uh, but yeah. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Prime Khabib versus Prime GSP. Who we got? It's a great fight. It's a great question. I don't know actually. Maybe I would lean towards Prime GSP, just a little bit more well-rounded. But could he stop the aggression and the you know the takedowns? But probably GSP is my answer. But honestly, very interesting fight. He needs to move on to light heavyweight. He did great when he fought against Vettori. He did. He did. It was actually very weird that he lost to Vettori. Or sorry, not very weird that he lost to Vettori, but very weird that Vettori was able to eat those head kicks. Paulo like didn't have too much volume in that fight, but he landed like huge shots, huge head kicks, huge shots up top. But Vittori's chin's just so ridiculous he didn't get knocked out. But overall, I do agree with you. I actually thought he had a pretty decent performance for that weight class. Well, the build up to that fight was honestly one of the funniest builds up ever. When when Paulo Costa, they were obviously supposed to fight at middleweight, then moved up to 195, then it moved up to 205, then it just kept moving up. And then Vittori's like, what's going on with I'm probably botching the story, but Vittori was like, what's going on? What weight class we're gonna fight at? Or this guy can't make weight, or whatever he said. And then and then Paulo Costa goes, "That is your own personal problem." That was so funny. But yeah, I mean, you're probably right. He probably should fight up a weight class. The problem with Paulo Costa is, I mean, besides him not fighting and having ring rust and whatever, the problem with Paulo Costa is, although he looks like he hits really hard, he really doesn't. He really hasn't shown an ability to hit really hard, and I think that's really hindered his career, honestly. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think historically Kopylov should be a guy that Paulo Costa beats. He should press forward, throw a bunch of shots. Kopylov doesn't have amazing, boxing. He does a great job at striking at range, utilizing kicks, body kicks, leg kicks, head kicks. But if you're able to pressure him, push a pace, you can really tire out Kopylov. Also, in that boxing range, I think Paulo Costa could really land some shots and do some damage. But at this point in his career, also, with all the fight cancellations and him not fighting really at all, I don't really have much confidence, unfortunately, in Paulo Costa at this point. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in this fight. MB says GSP. Yeah, I think I probably would agree. But that fight honestly would be very legendary. It would be a really, really fun one. But yeah, getting back into this upcoming weekend. Where were we? So we were on Collar, Phillips, and Vinicius, so that's going to be good. Marvin Vettori versus Brennan Allen. We're just talking about Vettori. But Vettori versus Brennan Allen. I have not. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. But I have not. But anyways, so after Oliveira, then we have Brennan Allen and Marvin Vettori. This fight's probably not going to be that fun. Marvin Vettori is not usually in Google. I'm assuming it's something that I don't want to Google. But anyways, so Marvin Vettori versus Brennan Allen. I mean, obviously, it's probably not going to be an amazing fight, but they do have their beef or whatever, so that could be interesting. Then we have Prado versus Nikolai. That could be fun, I guess. Antiba versus Valentine. That's probably going to be fun. Probably going to be a pretty easy finish for Antiba, or however you say this guy's name. But he's just super athletic, super powerful, honestly pretty skilled for as early on in MMA as he is. I think there's real potential for this guy going forward. So I think that fight itself is going to be pretty good. And in terms of the early prelims, there's not amazing fights. I mean, Ryan Span's on the early prelims. Unfortunately, at this point, he's not very good anymore. I guess not that he was ever like super good, but especially at this point, moving up to heavyweight and some of his more recent fights, he just doesn't look like he trains at all anymore. And he's kind of like running away from punches almost. He's very like He doesn't deal well when guys are throwing shots his way. So, we'll see what happens with him. But his power is always there, and he always has a pretty nice power guillotine. So we'll see what happens there. Bruno Fajedas on the early prelims usually puts on fun performances, so that's probably going to be fun. And outside of that, there's not really too much, but we'll see. We'll see what happens on this card. I really like Steve Garcia. I think he's someone to watch. I agree. Actually, going into his last fight, I thought, it turned out to be a very silly pick, but what was I going to say? But I thought that Calvin Kattar was going to win that fight, just because I thought, Calvin would have slicker boxing. But at this point, I think it's pretty apparent that Calvin Kattar is pretty done. I mean, I think he probably should retire at this point. He still has a pretty good chin, I guess. I mean, obviously, he's still never been finished, but in terms of like throwing offense, it just wasn't there in his last fight. And honestly, in some of his more recent fights, it's just not there anymore. So I think Calvin should probably retire. But with that being said, Steve Garcia did really impress me. Obviously, his last 5 fights, 4 fights, whatever it's been, he's been finishing everybody relatively quickly. But in a longer fight, a 3-round decision fight against Calvin Kattar, who was able to eat a lot of shots, Garcia was able to keep up the pace and pressure. He was able to, show a pretty good gas tank over 3 rounds. And you look really good. So yeah, I agree. Steve Garcia is definitely a guy to look out for, and I think he's going to be, very good. I think he's probably even going to continue to go on and get a bunch of finishes, even in the rankings of the featherweight division. So we'll see what happens. He actually just got ranked today, Tuesdays. They update the rankings. Steve Garcia is now the 11th ranked guy at this point. So yeah, we'll see where he goes. I agree with you though. I think he's going to be good. Holloway ended him. He did. That was just a beatdown of a performance that Holloway was able to put on him. And after that, he really didn't look the same. At this point, what is he on? Like a 4-fight losing streak, something like that. And he's probably just done at this point. I mean, he lost to Steve Garcia in his last fight. He lost to Yusuf Zalal the fight before that. In 2024, he lost to Aljamain Sterling. He lost to Arnold Allen. He lost to Josh Emmett. I thought he beat Josh Emmett, but he lost to Josh Emmett. Compiles to a bunch of losses in a row. I do think a lot of the guys he lost to are actually very good. Like I think Aljamain Sterling's really good. I think Steve Garcia is really good. Yusuf Zalal's really good. So yes, I guess he is losing to some of the better fighters, but still, he's on a big losing streak, and he's not really throwing offense that much. So I think he's probably done. They still haven't announced Aspinall versus Gagne. It is weird. Sometimes the UFC does this where there's like obvious fights that everybody knows is next and is going to happen, but they just don't announce it. And after a while, it makes you think like, are we going to see a different fight? But most likely it's going to be Aspinall versus Gagne. And yeah, no, they still haven't announced it. So we'll see what happens. But I'm assuming that's going to be the next fight. Aspinall is almost definitely going to win. I think he'll just take on down and submit him. And going from there, I think he'll get a bunch of title defenses at the heavyweight division. I was kind of touching upon this a little bit yesterday, but Tom Aspinall is kind of one of those guys that I think is going to get a lot of title defenses. Usually at the heavyweight division, you don't see that, as these guys are obviously a lot bigger. They hit a lot harder, and it just takes one shot, one mistake to get knocked out. But for Tom Aspinall, looking through the division, I really don't see anybody that's going to beat him. Ciryl Gane, I think he's going to beat. Volkov, he already beat before. I think he'll beat him again. Same thing can be said about Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Tybura Spivak, Derek Lewis, Charlton Almeida. I mean, I think he'll beat him as well. Tom Aspinall would beat Charlton Almeida. And everybody else, really in the top 10, he's already beat, honestly. Ironically enough, maybe Derek Lewis is the one guy that could beat Tom Aspinall. The only reason why I say that is because he just hits ridiculously hard. Obviously, he's not nearly as good as Tom Aspinall is. If Tom really wanted to, he can probably just take him down and submit him or hold him down or whatever. But if the fight's on the feet long enough, you're giving Derek Lewis an opportunity at the very least to potentially land a big shot and find a knockout. And Tom Aspinall has been hit in the past before. Sergey Pavlovich was able to land pretty hard shots on Aspinall. So I guess it is theoretically possible, but um, yeah, Aspinall has been clipped before. Yeah, so I kind of believe, ironically enough, I listen. Styles make fights. People always say that, but ironically, I do believe that Derek Lewis is probably the guy that would maybe have the best chance against Aspinall. But everybody else, I think Aspinall just has some sort of an advantage in. Like against Gon, he'll take him down and submit him. Against Volkov, he can take him down and submit him like he did before, or he can strike against him and have success. Against Sergey, I think he can take down Sergey and submit him. Or, I mean, he knocked him out last time they fought. Curtis Blades, he can just, outstrike him on the feet, overwhelm him, land a big shot, finish him, just like he was able to in his last fight. Against Jailton Almeida, just stop takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, and he'll have a big advantage over Jailton. Against Waldo Cortez Acosta, I think Aspinall can beat him anywhere. It is kind of ridiculous to me that Acosta is number 6 in the rankings. I really don't think he's very good at all. But we'll see. I mean, I guess I could be wrong about Acosta. I just don't think he's good. I think the only reason why he's at number 6 at this point is because he's pretty athletic and he hits pretty hard. But outside of that, I don't think he has many skills, unfortunately. So I think Tom would certainly beat him. Tybura, easy fight. Spivak, probably easy fight. Derek Lewis, as I said, could possibly clip Tom, but obviously you would heavily favor Tom Aspinall in that fight. Tai Tuivasa, he wouldn't get a title shot. Gaziev, I don't think will get a title shot. Mick Parkin, I don't think they would fight, but he won't get a title shot anyway. He's not good. Budai is not very good. Kuniev is all right, but Tom would beat him. And Taliesin Teixeira just lost to Derek Lewis. So, yeah, I don't know. There's just really nobody at the heavyweight division that I think can actually give Tom Aspinall problems. So I kind of think Tom's gonna get like 4 or 5, maybe 6 plus title defenses. I know it's weird to say for the heavyweight division, but I really don't see anybody that's in the rankings or even not ranked yet that can give this guy problems. Now, eventually, there's going to be a guy that comes around that will give Tom Aspinall problems, maybe find a knockout. Eventually, it'll happen, but at this point, I don't see it happening anytime soon. I was just waiting for focus. I'm just maybe next time. Yeah. We will see. Maybe Tom can snap his arm next time. Um, but yeah, listen, Volkov has improved obviously in terms of his wrestling, in terms of his jiu-jitsu. He did submit Tai Tuivasa for what it's worth. But still, the difference on the ground between Aspinall and Volkov is still immense. And if Aspinall wanted to take the fight down and submit Volkov, I believe he'll be able to do the exact same thing again. So we'll see what happens. Listen, this guy is definitely not going to beat Aspinall. I don't think he's going to get that close to it. But one guy at the heavyweight division that has impressed me, which is saying something because heavyweight division is pretty bad, obviously at this point, is Volter Walker. Initially I really didn't think he was good, but he's heel hooking everybody. At a certain point, it's like, could this guy actually be good? I think it's a perfect example of. We were kind of talking about this yesterday, but I think it's a perfect example of how certain guys that are not super skillful could move to the heavyweight division and have a lot of success. I'm not saying that Volter Walker sucks or anything. I think he's impressing me, and he's actually showing that he might be pretty good. But he's just going for heel hooks. Most other divisions that wouldn't be successful, but I think at the heavyweight division, most of these guys just don't know what a heel hook is or don't know how to defend it or whatever. That they just get surprised by it, and he gets in too deep on these heel hook submissions, and he's able to get it against these guys. Now, obviously, he's doing it against mostly unranked fighters, and maybe once he gets into the rankings, it'll be a different story. But it is weird that he's having so much success. It almost makes me think like, is this guy actually good? Which maybe he is actually good, and we'll see what happens as he moves throughout the rankings. I don't think he's ranked after his last win. No, he's not. So probably he'll fight one more guy and get in the rankings, or maybe his next fight will be against the guy who is in the rankings, Volter Walker. 3 wins in a row, all by heel hook. Pretty impressive. So we'll see where his career goes from here. But yeah, it is unfortunate. The heavyweight division Kinda sucks. I kinda thought listen, obviously, I was wrong. I was getting kinda clowned about it for a while, but I thought Towson Teixeira had a chance to be pretty good at, at the heavyweight division, but, he just got caught and he got knocked out. I don't love the stoppage, but, regardless, he was hurt pretty badly and whatever. I mean, there's still obviously a chance that Towson could still be good at heavyweight, but, obviously a pretty big setback, after the Derek Lewis fight. Thoughts on Conor McGregor? And, yeah, I thought he was, listen, I think coked out, if I'm allowed to say that on here, but that version of Conor McGregor is absolutely hilarious. He's a great promoter when he's like that. That press conference overall, I thought was really really funny. Really good press conference overall. Now, obviously, after seeing a press conference like that, I feel like it's pretty obvious Conor's never gonna fight again, or at least he's never gonna be disciplined enough to fight again. So that's kind of what I took away from the press conference. But the other thing is, this guy's hilarious. And in terms of his McMeat, uh, I don't know. I'm refusing to see the picture, but yeah, it's interesting. I guess that video of Chael Sonnen talking about Connor's meat was actually hilarious, bro. Oh man, that was so funny. Um, that was like honestly an insane clip. I was seeing it all over Twitter. It was so funny. But yeah, interesting couple days for Connor to say the least. But we'll see what happens. I saw someone commented this on one of my videos, and I think he's absolutely right. Somebody said that if the White House card isn't enough to get Connor back fighting, he's never going to fight, which I completely agree with. And at this point, as I said multiple times, I don't think Connor's going to fight. And even if he says he wants to fight, which he has said that he's been tweeting out. Obviously, he's shown a lot of interest in fighting. Also, at the BKFC press conference, he was saying it seems like that he's going to the White House next to fight on that card. Regardless of what he says, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. The only way that I'll believe that Connor's fighting is when he's actually walking out. To the octagon. Outside of that, whether or not he's saying stuff on Twitter or whether or not he's even if the fight gets booked, I'm not really going to believe it. We saw it with Conor versus Chandler, where the fight was booked after a while. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, this guy's finally fighting," and he just pulled out, relatively last second. So, I personally don't think Conor's going to fight again. Now, for John Jones, I mean, I think there's a better chance that we see John Jones on the White House card, but even for him, I don't know. The difference between Conor and Jones, though, is Jones has shown the ability to be, I guess more saying John Jones is disciplined is a bit of a reach, but he's shown to be more disciplined than Conor McGregor has, and obviously he's back in the testing pool already. He's also shown a lot of interest in the White House card, so I think it's possible that we could see John Jones on that card. Will he fight Tom Aspinall? I mean, obviously he's shown that he doesn't want to fight Tom, but maybe after some time, after Tom gets a couple title defenses, which I believe he would, maybe at that point he'll see Tom Aspinall as a more legitimate champ and he'll fight him, or he'll see him as a bigger name and he'll fight him. So it is possible that we see John Jones fight at the White House card, or maybe decides to fight John Jones. Maybe he decides to fight Alex Pereira or somebody else, some other big name that he perceives to be a money fight for him. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm fully, as I said before, I'm fully expecting the White House card to be, two title fights, but like two legitimate title fights, like a ridiculously good title fight at the top of the card, and then as a co-main event, also a legitimate title fight. A lot of times what the UFC tends to do is they'll have like a really good title fight as the main event, and then the co-main event would be like a women's title fight. I don't think they're doing that for the White House card. I think it's going to be two really good title fights. Maybe if they do three title fights and the third one's a women's title fight, maybe they do that. But I think the card is going to be very good, like very stacked. The UFC at this point kind of like has trade-offs in a lot of their pay-per-views. Either you get an amazing main event, but the rest of the card isn't that good, or you have like a main event, but the rest of the card is pretty good. Very rarely do you see a great main event and a very stacked card, like prelims and also the main card. Very rarely do you see that. But I think with this White House card, it's going to be one of those times where we do see a fully stacked card from top to bottom. And I think that's something the UFC really does need at this point. Obviously, a lot of people have been complaining about the UFC as of late, based on the pay-per-view cards, some of the fight night cards. So as I said, the White House card is going to be good, but at the same time, it is a year out, so we have a lot of other things to look forward to at this point. And at this point, just looking through some of the upcoming fights. Obviously, this weekend should be fun, I guess. Next weekend, I think is a really good card, but very big blow. It's unfortunate. RDR versus Whitaker is a great main event, but Movsar versus Pico was a fight that I was really looking forward to, and that fight's off for next weekend, so that's really a big blow to the card. But fortunately for us, they are putting together keeping the Evloev versus Pico fight together. I believe they're going to put it on UFC 319 with Dricus and Hamzat. So that'll be a really fun fight to add to the card. Maybe a co-main event for that card, making the main card really good. Because if Pico and Evloev are on that card, the main card is going to be Dricus versus Hamzat is the main event. Co-main event, Pico versus Movsar, Jeff Neal versus Prates, Cannonier versus MVP, and then I guess Barbosa versus Jakar Close. Maybe they'll add another fight to that. But if that's the main card, that's not bad. I mean, you'd prefer a better fight than Barbosa and Jakar Close on the prelims of a pay-per-view, but still, those 5 fights aren't that bad. Not that they're not that bad. They're actually pretty good. So that'll be a fun main card, and the prelims. I'm sure they're going to look to add some more fights to this card. But yeah, so that should be good for UFC 319. Obviously, we have the China card coming up after that. That's going to be a fun one as well. Actually, it's actually very good, like ridiculously good, actually. As a main event, you have Zhang Minyang versus Johnny Walker. Minyang's going to find a TKO relatively early, I think. Co-main event is Ortega and Aljamain Sterling. That's a really, really good fight. Then you have Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. They're really trying to derail the Acosta train. I fully expect Sergey to beat Acosta. If he can't beat Acosta, the heavyweight division's really in trouble. But that's going to be a fun fight, probably an early finish, or at the very least a fun fight. Then you have Marco Tulio versus Michelle Pereira, and that's always going to be fun. Loner Kavanaugh's on that card versus Charles Johnson. Of course, that's going to be good. Kevin Borjas versus Sumandarji. I think that's going to be really fun. So that card's looking pretty good. There definitely are some fun fights and some fun cards that are coming in the not too distant future. But we just need more news. I feel like it's been forever since Dana went on Instagram Live and broke some news about upcoming fights, about upcoming cards. It's been forever. And the couple times that he has done that as of late, it's been fights that we already knew about. So I'm assuming the next time that he goes on to Instagram Live, he's going to be like, Tom Aspinall versus Real Gone. But we already essentially knew about that. So it would be cool to get some new information that we don't know about, or maybe put together some really fun cards. We'll see what happens. But yeah, let's do a quick Twitter check to see if any news came out or anything. All right. So Hamza Chimaev wants to fight Paulo Costa. I actually would like to see that fight. If Hamzat's the champion, though, you really can't make that fight. But I actually really wanted to see that fight originally when it was scheduled. Listen, obviously Hamzat's most likely going to win, but whenever there's a beef between two guys, it just makes the fight that much more exciting. And obviously there was a pretty big beef between Hamzat and Paulo, so I really wanted to see that fight, but unfortunately Paulo had to pull out of that one. But if they could rebook the fight, that'd be cool. I would like to see that. But yeah, let's see. What else we got? Not too much of a news day today. Yeah, really nothing. Movsar Evloev is the number one contender now. If that's the news for today, then not too busy of a news day. But yeah, what else we got? Kyle Bahalia versus Imavov. That's a good fight. That's a really good fight, actually. Um, I think probably Imavov is going to beat Kaio. Kaio is very good. He has good jiu-jitsu. His striking is getting better. In his last fight against Cannonier, he actually showed much improved striking, and he even hits like pretty hard as well. But the thing about Imavov is he has the advantage in the striking, and in terms of the grappling, if Kaio could get the fight to the ground, he'll have a decent advantage in terms of the jiu-jitsu, the positioning, or whatever, and I think he can have a lot of success. But Imavov has decent takedown defense, and he has decent wrestling as well. So maybe it'll be difficult to get the fight down to the ground. So overall, I am leaning towards Imavov winning the fight. The thing about Imavov is I don't think he's amazing. I mean, obviously, Adesanya was able to have success against him. Some other guys were able to have success against him as well. But the good thing about Imavov is his striking. Obviously, he does a great job at mixing things up. But I think the biggest differentiating factor about Imavov's striking is his ability to change pace. A lot of times you'll see Imavov striking at a certain pace, but then all of a sudden he'll double the speed or triple the speed of certain combinations that he puts together, and that's really where he's able to hurt his opponents. I think we really saw that in his fight against Jared Cannonier, where he was able to finish Cannonier. Bad stoppage, but regardless, he hurt Cannonier pretty significantly by utilizing that changing of speed. And also in his last fight versus Adesanya, he was able to throw a shot pretty quickly. Now, obviously, Adesanya made a pretty big mistake. That's why he got finished. But still, Imavov was able to take advantage of that mistake and quickly throw a shot that kind of caught Adesanya off guard. And I think that's really the main aspect of Imavov striking, or at least the main reason for why he's able to have so much success. He kind of just catches his opponents off guard a lot of the time by that change in speed. So I'll definitely be making a video about this one. I mean, this fight is pretty far out from now. It's September 7th, so it'll probably be a little bit, but still, I'll probably make a more in-depth breakdown video about this fight coming out relatively soon. This is an hilarious fight. Andreas Gustafsson versus Hanat Fakhretdinov. This is a hilarious fight because both of these guys I don't think are very skillful, but both of these guys really go for it, and they're both ridiculously physical. So I think it's probably going to be a fun fight. But yeah, Casa needs to move up if he loses or cut. Yeah, I mean, listen, most other fighters who had the reign of Paulo Costa, I'll say, all the fight cancellations, fighting once a year, once every 2 years, also not having a lot of success when he does fight, would have been cut by now. But I think the UFC kind of sees Paulo as a star at this point. Listen, do I think he's a star? Probably not. I mean, he obviously has some sort of a fan base at this point. He is very funny. And earlier on in his career, he was putting on fun performances. But ever since the Adesanya fight, his performances are not nearly as fun. He doesn't push forward nearly as much as he did, probably in part because of him being so inactive. He probably has a lot of ring rust. But I do agree with you. If he loses to Kopylov, he either move up or the UFC would just cut him. Is he going to get cut if he loses to Kopylov? I'm not so sure. The only reason why I say that is because I kind of think the UFC sees him as a star, and I think they can put him in. They think that they could put him in some big fights that could bolster a pay-per-view card. I mean, I think a perfect example of the star power they see Paulo having is because of what we're seeing this upcoming weekend. Paulo Costa is the co-main event. He's number 14th ranked guy or 13th ranked guy, whatever he is, and he's a co-main event of a pay-per-view. I think the UFC kind of sees Paulo as a guy that they can just throw into to the main card of a pay-per-view to help bolster it in their mind. So that's kind of where I think they see Paulo at this point, but we'll see what happens. Jiu-Jitsu, the guy who really is a big fan of John Jones. Yeah, by the way, thanks so much for the raid to JG2. I thanked him. It was really, really nice of him. And thanks everybody for joining the stream as well. But yeah, he's a big fan of John Jones. Yeah, I mean, Listen, John Jones is really good. I personally see him as the GOAT. I know, a lot of other people probably won't consider him to be the GOAT just because of, the cheating allegations of PEDs. Not even allegations. He was caught with PEDs, and throughout the years, a lot of people thought he lost to a couple of guys. But in my opinion, I see John Jones as the GOAT just because of, his longevity, a lot of title defenses. He was able to beat a lot of really good guys. He was also able to become a two division champ, and regardless of the whole Tom Aspinall thing, he was able to beat Cyril Gahn, who was seen at that point at least to be a legitimate contender, and he kind of just ran through him. And against Stipe, he also obviously was able to dominate. Now Stipe was, he was pretty washed at that point. But regardless, I guess it counts as one title defense and a pretty big name to have on his resume. So yes, I mean John Jones has done a lot of great things throughout the years, and I personally consider him to be the GOAT. But if you don't, I definitely don't. I don't mind it. There's a lot of guys that can be considered the GOAT, and I kind of talked about this as well. But a lot of people have different criterias for their GOAT conversation. Some people would talk about longevity more. Some people will talk about quality of wins more. Some people will talk about how their fights went. Like people who say Khabib's the GOAT, obviously he didn't have a ton of title defenses. Obviously he wasn't a two division champ. Obviously he didn't have the longevity. But what he did have was him being extremely dominant. So some people consider domination or the way you win fights to be part of the GOAT conversation. So everybody has different criteria and everybody has their own opinion on it. But yeah. But yeah, I think John's probably the GOAT at this point. But if Ilia Topuria can beat one more guy, get one title defense at 155, move up to 170, beat Islam, not a long career, but I think there's a real argument that he'll be the GOAT. I mean, he would have beaten like a ridiculous level of guys: Charles Oliveira, Volkanovski, Max Holloway. At that point, as you would add Islam Makhachev or Paddy Pimblett or Justin Gaethje or Arman Tsarukyan, maybe some of those guys to his list as well. I mean, the caliber of fighters that he was able to beat, if obviously he was able to beat those guys, would be ridiculous, and becoming the first three division champ would be ridiculous as well. But obviously, at this point, I like to caution against that just because there's so many moving parts at this point. Who knows what's going to happen with Islam and JDM? I think JDM has a real chance to beat Islam, and if he does, that could really mess up a lot of the UFC's plans or Topuria's plans. And obviously, also Topuria needs to beat one of the three of Gaethje, Paddy, or Arman, which I think he would, but still, obviously, the fight didn't happen yet, and we have to see what happens there. I think out of those three, though, probably Paddy. No, honestly, probably Gaethje is the easiest fight out of those three. The reason why I say that is just because with Gaethje, I think Ilya could win whatever way he wants. On the feet, Gaethje is very hittable, and he does have good boxing. He does have good power. Obviously, he could land a big uppercut. I think the uppercut would be probably the biggest weapon for Gaethje against Topuria, but outside of that, Topuria is just a lot better and a lot more skilled on the feet, a much more skilled boxer, and the power will add up. Or if he wants to take down Gaethje, he'll be able to, and I think he'll submit him. Against Paddy, if the fight's on the feet, he'll probably be able to land a lot of shots and probably finish him. Most likely, he will finish Paddy. But if Paddy somehow can get a takedown, I guess it would be a little bit hairy to see if Topuria could survive. I'm not the biggest fan of Paddy Pimblett. I think he's obviously he's impressed me a lot over the years, but at the same time, I think his game is a little bit limited. Not an amazing wrestler, not an amazing striker, but he does have great jiu-jitsu. The code of domestic abuse. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair, honestly. Just when it comes to drunk driving, yeah, he is. He definitely is. There's no one that does it better than him. There's definitely no one that does it better than him. Message redacted. Message redacted. Unreal. So many messages redacted. But yeah, John Jones is definitely he's definitely had an interesting UFC career to say the least, and we'll see if he fights again. He might just be retired at this point, and maybe we won't see him ever again. But or at least fighting, we won't see him ever again. I'm sure we'll see him in some sort of case uh, in the not too distant future. Just seems like he can't stay out of trouble, but um, we'll see what happens. But what do you think? Who do you think is the goat in your opinion? MB. Do you think it is Taporia already, or do you think it's somebody else? Who do you think? Or anybody else in chat for that matter? What do you guys think? Um, do you compete in MMA? I don't. I don't. I, I uh, I don't know if I want to per se, but I do want to train. Obviously, I have an MMA channel. I talk about MMA a lot, and I don't train, which is unfortunate. But over the years, I kind of got into MMA a little bit late. Honestly, I started watching MMA in around 2019, and ever since then, I've been watching essentially every card. Watching the shitty fight nights and the Apex, as well as obviously the pay-per-views, and I just really like the sport. But in terms of training, I really haven't even thought about it until recently. But over the last couple weeks, I really been wanting to train, and I am not too far away from Ray Longo's gym. So it would be really cool to train there. I actually know a couple people that do train there, so I may start training there. And once I start training, who knows? Maybe I'll have an interest in competing or something like that. But that would be pretty fun. Try jujitsu or kickboxing. Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking. They have different programs. Obviously, they have jujitsu, kickboxing, and I believe they have wrestling as well. I was debating whether I would do kickboxing or whether I would do just full MMA. The only thing I was just thinking though is obviously I don't have any experience, so if I'm just getting started and I just get in right into MMA right at the beginning, will it be harder to pick up things because I'm kind of learning everything at the same time? I almost feel like it might be a better idea just to focus on one thing for a couple months, maybe jujitsu, maybe that's kickboxing, for a few months, just to get a feel of it and improve a little bit in that area, and then maybe look to implement the other aspect of MMA into my game and start to work on that a little bit. But I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. But yeah, I do definitely want to go train. Thanks for what's going on. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm learning from Conor for sure. But yeah. By the way, are you like taking down comments, MB, or is YouTube doing that? With all the messages redacted or whatnot? Because if it's YouTube, I prefer them not to do that. But if it's you, then yeah, it's all good. Lifting weights, yeah. I listen. I've never heard of that before, but whatever works, I guess, right? Do whatever works. I don't know. Maybe I'll consider, putting in weights and seeing how that works out for me. But yeah. Very interesting couple days for Conor. Yeah. But let's see. I get me too. I haven't seen it. I'm refusing to see it, bro. I'm refusing to see it. I mean, I've seen the the picture like above the waist, but I'm refusing to see it. I don't want to see it. And yeah, I am proud as well to say that I haven't. But yeah, I guess we both have our innocence still. but but yeah, very interesting. Man. But who knows? Who knows what's going to come out next with Conor? I'm sure he'll come. He'll be in a BKFC press conference. He'll be on the slopes. He'll be hilarious, or he'll put out some sort of some hilarious video or whatever. But as I said, at this point, Conor's fighting days are probably over, and or not probably, almost definitely over. And at this point, Conor's just a comedian. I don't know what to say. He's just a comedian. Um, but uh, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Um, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Also, just for you with the family at the beach. I did. It's been a very interesting birthday for Conor, um, for sure, or a couple days. That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard good things about Conor, but yeah, as I said, I'm refusing to say it. But but yeah, I guess he has nothing to worry about. It's just so weird that these things are coming out, which is fine. I mean, he's Conor. He has a lot of money. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But it is just so funny that he has he has his girlfriend and he has kids, and he's like, what is he, like 30, whatever, at this point. It's just funny that all these things are coming out, um, but whatever. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. The double champ does what he wants. Yeah, that was terrible. That was really bad. Um, but uh, but yeah. Where am I from? I'm from New York. What about you? Where are you from? Um, but but yeah, freaking name. Great. I'm assuming you're going to you're gonna sell me on something. I've been getting a lot of those comments. But anyways, his wife's still defending. It is crazy. It is crazy. I know a lot of people say it's because well, they're actually not married yet. So a lot of people are saying she doesn't want to lose the money or whatever. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it is pretty crazy. Um, that would be that would be interesting. That would be unfortunate. I'll throw it on the screen for a second. This will be unfortunate. But yeah, when Connor's kids grow up, it could be unfortunate. But there you go. They're selling me on something else. I love streaming on multiple platforms, but everybody that I get on the kick streams, everybody that comments is just trying to sell me something. I'm not interested in buying logos or banners or whatever. I'm kind of just streaming and seeing how it goes, but I appreciate the offer. Um, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Um, Toporia's kid looked pretty good. He looked very slick in the boxing on the pads. Um, but but yeah, here we go. I'm a crazy designer at a reasonable price. It's all right, brother. Thanks for the offer, but I'm not interested. Um, but but yeah, we'll see what happens for Connor's kids. That still shot of Patty Pimlet and Taporia's son was also really funny. Um, but uh, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It honestly is just so unfortunate with Conor though. At this point, he's like exactly who he didn't want to be earlier on in his career. Earlier on in his career, he was just like ridiculously disciplined. He'll train all the time. He'll never miss weight. He'll fight through injuries. He was obviously putting on amazing performances, and he became a legend based on that. But unfortunately, at this point, he's kind of just the complete opposite. Just drinking and not being disciplined all the time, never fighting anymore at this point, which is fair. I mean, obviously he's made a ton of money. He doesn't have to fight anymore. But it is kind of just crazy to see the difference between Conor now and Conor, 5 years ago or whatever, 6 years ago, or maybe longer than that at this point, way longer than that, like 10 years ago, let's say. But yeah, Atapori is going to be a good version of Conor. I agree. Topuria, obviously, there's a lot of similarities between Topuria and Conor, at least early on in Conor. They're just both ridiculously confident, and they just deliver on what they say they're going to do. I kind of think Topuria at this point is probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC. I mean, there's a lot of other really exciting fighters. I think Dricus is very exciting as well. Hamzat is really exciting. That's why Dricus versus Hamzat is going to be so fun. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, when Topuria goes out there, he's going to push a pace, put punches and combinations. His power is ridiculous. And I don't think he's ever been in a boring fight, honestly. Maybe the only fight that you can possibly say was boring, and I don't even think it was that, was his UFC debut versus Yusuf Zalal, because it was mostly just wrestling. But even in that, Topuria went for a lot of submissions and almost got a couple. Um, and, you know, so. But Tabor is really fun. He always puts on fun performances. Islam is on roids. I probably would agree. Obviously, he hasn't been caught, but these guys have tremendous doctors. Kamar Usman's never been caught for roids, and I highly doubt that he's not on anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if Islam is. And Yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy that he was cutting down to 155. Um, He's very big for 155. Now moving up to 170, I think it's actually a better weight class for him. We'll see how he fares against JDM, but it'll be interesting because JDM is probably going to be bigger than Islam. So this will be like the first time ever, I believe, that Islam's opponent's going to be bigger than him. So we'll see how he fares in that fight. It's kind of like an interesting stylistic matchup, though, just because Islam is a pretty good counter striker. He's not too aggressive on the feet. He has a great shot. But on the feet, he's kind of a counter striker, and JDM does a great job at utilizing footwork, getting into that boxing range, and essentially forcing his opponents to fight in the pocket with him. So it'll be interesting to see how Islam's able to deal with that style. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. No one in the chat could take me down. You guys gonna take that, brother or boys? I'm kidding, but I probably can't take you down. I don't train. But I would like to. Hopefully I can train, get good. Look at the picture of him when he was fighting outside. Shoulders grew so much. Yeah. Islam definitely, got very big in short period of time, let's say. He most likely is, but kind of how I see it, it's unfortunate. Yes, it is cheating. Yes, a couple guys have been caught and they've been suspended for cheating in the past. But in my opinion, how I see it is, I think everybody's on roids. Maybe not literally everybody. I think Colby Covington's a guy who's probably not on roids. There's a couple other examples like Nate Landwehr is probably not on roids, but I think most of the guys in the top 10 and a lot of the champions are most likely, maybe all of the champions are most likely on roids or on some sort of PEDs. So that's kind of how I see it. So I do agree with you. Islam, there's a good chance that he probably is. But I guess to be fair, I think most other guys are as well. But yeah. I think Topuria is on roids. Might go Canever. I mean, he doesn't have like ridiculous physique. It doesn't mean that he's not on PEDs, obviously, but yeah, maybe he's not. I mean, he hits ridiculously hard. But I don't know. I honestly have no idea if he is or isn't. It's not like he looks like he is, but as I said, you don't have to look like it to be on it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he's not, I guess. I'm a big fan of Topuria as well. He's still young. He is, yeah. He is still young. He just has, the thing about Topuria though is he's just ridiculously physical. I think he's probably, in terms of like physicality rankings in the UFC, I think he's probably number 2. Number 1, I would say is Dricus. Number 2, I would say is Topuria. And that's a real reason for why he's been so great. His power is ridiculous. Honestly, I know a lot of people have been saying him moving up to 170, eventually it's going to catch up to him, and these guys are just going to be too big for him, which is possible. But at the same time, like, would you be completely shocked if Topuria moved up to 170, put on some extra muscle, put on some more weight, and knocked out, somebody at 170? I wouldn't be completely shocked. Also, the form of his punches, he's super technical and everything. So, but he's just very good. I knew Topuria was going to win against Volk, Holloway, and Charles. Yeah, me as well. Me too. Against Charles, I was ridiculously confident that he was going to knock him out in the first round, first 2 rounds, let's say. Just because Charles just presses forward. I love Charles. He's a great fighter. He had a great reign, but stylistically, it's not a great idea to just walk forward against Ilia Topuria. And obviously, Charles has always been a guy that doesn't have great defense. Michael Chandler was able to land big shots on him. Gaethje was able to land big shots on him. Poirier was able to land big shots on him. And obviously for Poirier and a little bit less so Gaethje, they do a good job at mixing things up and landing big shots. They are decently technical, I'll say, more so Poirier than Gaethje. But Michael Chandler is really just explosive. He's not really technical at all, and he was able to land big shots in both of their fights. So I just thought it wasn't a great idea for Charles to move forward against Topuria. Topuria would just eventually be able to land a big shot and knock him out, which is what he was able to do. And against Max turned out to be the toughest fight for Topuria, but I also thought going into it he was going to win. Honestly, how I feel about Topuria at this point, for anybody, honestly, at 145 as well as 155, is he's kind of just inevitable. There's certain guys like Max Holloway or maybe even a Gene Silva that could give some trouble to Topuria, but eventually I think he'll land a big shot, and eventually I think he'll just find a finish. And that's what he was able to do against Holloway. And then against Volk, I also thought he was going to win going into it, just because Volkanovski is amazing. His technical ability is one of, if not the best in the entire UFC. But the thing that Volkanovski struggles with at this point and really throughout his entire career is guys that are super physical and guys that just hit really hard. And Topuria was just that guy. I always thought, like, for Volkanovski to beat Topuria, he has to be perfect for 5 rounds. He can't take any shots at all. But for Topuria to beat Volkanovski, he can be losing 4.5 rounds, land one big right hand, and he'll win the fight. Now, it turned out he was able to do it a lot sooner than that, and he was able to have a lot of success a lot sooner than that. But when you talk about matchups like that, it's just very difficult for the guy who's so much less physical to beat the guy that is significantly more physical when the skill level is relatively close, which it is. Between Topuria and Volkanovski. So, yeah, I agree. I also thought Topuria was going to win all those fights. If Islam comes down to 155, going up, everyone's going to use the same excuse they used on Holloway. Yeah, probably. Listen, you're probably right. There's always going to be some sort of an excuse. But if Islam moves down to 155 and Topuria knocks him out, or Topuria even just beats him, even if it's a hard-fought fight, at least for me, there's no excuses. I mean, Islam was seen as the guy that could beat Topuria. At this point, it seems like Topuria is going to be favored against everybody outside of Islam. He'll be favored against Paddy. He'll be favored against Arman. He'll be favored against Gaethje. The only guy that it seems to be that would be the biggest test for him would be Islam. So if I don't think it's very likely that Islam will move back down to 155, but theoretically, if he did move back down to 155 and we saw Topuria versus Islam at that weight class, and Topuria knocks him out, there's no really excuses there, at least coming from me. And honestly, if the fight's at 155, I favor Ilia Topuria. I just think at 155, Islam is a little bit too big. I think he'll be a little bit too drained. We saw it a little bit in his first Volkanovski fight. We also saw it a little bit in his last fight versus Moicano. I thought his striking really didn't look good at all. I thought he looked pretty drained as well on the scales. And maybe at this point, especially after putting on the more weight, if Islam ever decided to move back down to 155, I think he'll be pretty drained, and I think it'll be a pretty difficult weight cut for him. So at 155, I think Topuria gets him. I think he lands a big shot, knocks him out. At 170, it's a much tougher fight for Ilia, but I still think he could win. As I said, Islam is good on the feet. He's better than people give him credit for. He's a good counter striker, but for a guy like Topuria, I just think he's just a level above, obviously, of what Islam can do on the feet. Now, the wrestling is going to be an issue. It's going to be something that Ilia needs to work on and needs to focus on, especially at 170, when Islam's going to have probably a decent amount of weight on Topuria. But still, I mean, Topuria moved up to 155. went up against Charles, who I think at this point is a pretty underrated wrestler. Charles has good wrestling, and Topuria was not only able to stop the takedown, but he even reversed Charles. So I don't think it's the wrestling difference between Islam and Topuria is ridiculous. Probably Islam is a better wrestler, and especially at 170, I'm sure he'll have an advantage. But I don't think the difference is ridiculous. So at 155, I favor Ilya. At 170, much tougher fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ilya even won at that weight class as well. But we'll see what happens. We're kind of just in a wait and see mode for the UFC for a lot of the fights for Aspinall and Ciryl Gane. It seems like that's going to be the fight, but we don't know when this is going to be booked. So we're kind of in a wait and see for that one. We're also in a wait and see for Ilya's next fight. I know he did just fight not too long ago, but still, I'm interested to see what the UFC decides to do. Do they just give it to Paddy right away? Do they do Paddy versus Gaethje, and the winner of that gets Ilya? Do they give it to Arman right away? I doubt they give it to Arman right away. But there's a lot of there's 3 guys that could potentially get it, but we're kind of just in a wait and see mode with that. But we'll see. My ideal world is they just do Paddy versus Ilya right away. Paddy does not deserve it at all. I'm not saying that, but it's a big fight that'll sell a lot of pay-per-views. They have the beef. It'll be fun. The lead up will be fun. Just put the fight together. Topuria obviously would beat Paddy. Very high likelihood he'll beat Paddy, I guess I should say. And then after that, if he wants to move up to 170, do it. And if Islam's a champ at 170, put that huge fight together. Finally, get that super fight and go from there. That's what I would personally like to see, but we'll see what the UFC decides to do. But yeah, I mean, just looking throughout the weight classes, there's a lot of fights that we're kind of just waiting on. For Pantoja and Van, we know it's going to happen, but we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. For Moreno and Royval, I think that's going to be a fight that gets put together, but we're still waiting on that one. For Merab and Corey Sandhagen, that's another fight that we're kind of just waiting for. I'm not too high on that fight, Merab versus Sandhagen. I think Merab's just going to beat Sandhagen. I don't think it's a fight that's too interesting to me personally. But that's the next fight, and we'll see. Sandhagen did make improvements, so we'll see if he's able to beat Merab. But I don't personally think. Can you react to this? But only the main event picks. Which one? You're gonna send the link, I'm assuming. Sure, I'll react to something. Or are you just gonna tell me your main event picks? But yeah, I'll react to it. But yeah. So yeah, and then at featherweight we have Movsar versus Pico. I'm assuming Movsar is going to well, I don't know if I'm assuming, but I think Movsar would win against Pico and probably be Movsar versus Volkanovski. Topuria we kind of touched upon. JDM versus Islam is next, but we're kind of waiting to see when that fight gets made. I'm assuming it'll get made for New York in November. Then for light heavyweight, we're kind of just waiting for Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. It seems like that's going to be the fight that gets made next, but we're just waiting for it. And then for heavyweight, we're just waiting for Gane and Aspinall. There's a lot of title fights that we're kind of just waiting for at this point. Now, some of these guys fought like pretty recently, so it makes sense, obviously. But most of these guys don't have a fight booked next. Merab has. Oh, well, sorry. Dricus has a fight booked next, but that's it. Dricus is the only guy, the only champion that has a fight booked next. Everybody else, we kind of know who's going to be the next fight, but it's not booked. So there's a lot of filling out to do for the rest of this year and potentially into early next year. But yeah, we need more things to talk about. It is unfortunate when we get into times like this where it kind of just feels like there's just not much news. UFC kind of feels a little bit boring. We have a couple of cards that are coming up, yes, but nothing that's like ridiculously fun. Outside of UFC 319 in August, Hamzat versus DDP, there's nothing that's like insane that's happening relatively soon. But yeah. Um, but yeah, MB. I'll react to. I'll react to it. But yeah, if it's your own picks or whatever, yeah, just send it in chat. I'll react to it. If it's a specific video, I can react to it as well. Um, but yeah. Um, but yeah, so I guess it's a good time to push this. So anybody who's new to this live stream, I do live streams every single day during the week, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Today we streamed a little bit early. Actually, I have something to do at 8, 20 minutes away from that. So, um, you know, I'll have to get off stream not too long from now, but normally it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's been really fun. I haven't been streaming for that long. It's been about like 2 weeks, but it's been really fun. Just hopping on stream every day, building some sort of a community with you guys, talking about fights with you guys, and yeah, I'm just continuing to push on YouTube, trying to grow. And it's obviously a grind. Obviously, it's going to take a while, but I have been seeing some results, and it's exciting. The whole process is honestly just exciting to me. So I appreciate all you guys for joining the live streams, for watching the videos if you have done so, and if you guys enjoy the content, I appreciate it. I'll continue to be pushing out some content. But outside of live streams, obviously, I'm also coming out with YouTube videos every Wednesday and Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time for both of those uploads. I talked about this before, but I'm going to start to upload 3 times a week as opposed to 2, starting after this week. So for next week, I'm going to start to upload 3 uploads a week. It's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Still the same 2 p.m. Eastern time for all of those uploads. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But yeah. So definitely exciting stuff, and I appreciate everybody just for being here. I appreciate all your guys' questions and everything like that. But yeah, it's been fun. But what are some upcoming fights? So we have Kai Sakura fighting soon against Tim Elliott. I believe Kai's going to win. I know a lot of people were talking about Kai negatively after he lost to Pantoja because he got taken down and submitted. But I always thought that argument was kind of weird, just because Pantoja takes down and submits everybody. So losing to Pantoja is not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily say that you're not good. I just think Pantoja is that good. But Tim Elliott not cut. Oh, why is Tim Elliott not cut? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He's currently the number 11th ranked guy. They'll put him against Kai Sakura. I think Kai's gonna win, and if he does win, maybe Tim will get cut. I don't know. When was the last time Tim Elliott fought? Let's see. We're talking about Tim Elliott. That's kind of shows you where the UFC is at this point. Okay, so Tim beat Sumadarji. Wow, he hasn't fought in forever. He beat Sumadarji in 2023. That was the last time he fought in December of 2023. So it's been a really long time since we saw Tim Elliott. And now obviously he has Kai Sakura next. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, that should be fun. I gotta honestly, I think the flyweight division is really good. Obviously, Pantoja is a great champion, and he just looks to be extending his win streak, extending the amount of title defenses. But I think the flyweight division is actually pretty underrated. I know it's a lower weight class. Some people don't have as much interest in it. There's not as many finishes at the flyweight division. But when you look at the talent itself, you talk about Joshua Van, Brendan Moreno, even Brennan Royval. Amir Albazi, I don't necessarily think the same way, but in terms of Van, Moreno, Royval, Manel Kopp, even Steve Erceg, I know people aren't too high on him, but Steve Erceg and Kai Sakura, I think all those guys are like legitimate contenders. In terms of Van, Moreno, Royval, like both those 3 guys, and Kopp, I'll throw in there. All 4 of those guys are like very legitimate contenders. So there's a lot of really good talent at flyweight, and most of these guys that I mentioned are also pretty young. So they have a chance to even get better, and there's even some unranked guys at flyweight at this point, like Andre Lima. I've talked about a little bit yesterday that I think are going to be pretty good as well. So I think the flyweight division's at a really good spot, and I think there's a lot of talent. There's going to be a lot of new fights for Pantoja. Aids, what's going on, bro? What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Joshua Van started training MMA like 6 years ago with no martial arts. It's insane. Also, when watching Joshua Van, you would expect him to have some sort of extensive boxing background, like an amateur boxing background. I don't think he has any background at all. Like, I think he literally started fighting. He didn't fight at all previous, at least professionally or training wise. I think he fought in the streets or whatever. But in terms of training or anything, he really didn't have any experience before 6 years ago. He's just like naturally, as you said, yeah, he's just naturally ridiculously talented. His boxing is legitimately one of the best. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC. In terms of like the best boxers in the UFC at this point, I think Topuria, not in any order, but Topuria, Joshua Van, Peter Yan, Poirier is there, but different reason from the other three guys. But I would say Poirier's there, Max Holloway's there. There's a lot of guys, but Van is legitimately on that list. And as you said, he just started fighting or training MMA 6 years ago. He just got to the UFC. So there's a lot of things to like about Van. He has an exciting style. He's really good. He can stop takedowns. And also he's ridiculously active, which is also another great thing. I mean, he just got knocked out just got knocked out by what's his face? I'm blanking out here. He just got knocked out by, of course he's not ranked. Who did he just get knocked out by? This guy's fighting not too long ago. Oh, Charles Johnson. It just came to me. He just got knocked out by Charles Johnson not too long ago after dominating the fight, but he just got caught in that fight. But ever since that knockout loss, he fought like a bunch of times in a short amount of time, and now he's getting a title shot because he's so active. It kind of just shows you how far or how quickly you can advance your career if you're very active. There's not too many guys like Joshua Van out there. Talent's like Leon Edwards, but has no quit. Yep. I completely agree. I always thought Leon was very, very talented, but he just, he tends to quit. We saw it in a lot of his fights. We saw it against Usman, even when he got the head kick. In that fight against Usman, he quit after the second round or the third round, or it appeared as such. And especially in his last fight versus Sean Brady, it was very frustrating. I thought Leon could beat Sean Brady. I thought there was a real chance, but the first round obviously didn't go his way. But immediately after the first round didn't go his way on the stool, he just looks so dejected. It's one round. It's one round of a 5-round fight. You lost the first round, whatever. Stop takedowns in the next round. Keep the fight on the feet. And if you can keep the fight on the feet, you can have a lot of success. Sean Brady's not a great striker. And obviously, he just looks so dejected. He got taken down in the second round, and he got submitted, I believe, in the third round or second, whatever round it was. But he's very talented, as you said, but he just quits way too much. So we'll see where his career goes from here. But I don't think we're ever going to be talking about a champion Leon Edwards ever again. Unfortunately for him, in terms of matchups that they could put together, they can probably do him versus Ian Gary, maybe put that fight together. I think the fight itself would be really boring, but that'll be an interesting fight. Is Leon going to quit against Ian Gary? Honestly, maybe not, just because it's going to be a low pace fight, I believe. Both guys are kind of counter strikers. Both guys don't really go for it all that much. So yeah, I guess maybe that's a fight they can put together for Leon, but I don't know. I'm just not high on Leon anymore. I mean, I never really was, but especially now I'm not. He was sleepy. Yeah. Also in this fight against Bilal, I mean, I really thought he could have beat Bilal Muhammad, but it's just a really bad performance. As you said, he just looks sleepy out there sometimes. He loses confidence. He looks sleepy, and whatever. Why does that keep happening, bro? Are you doing that, MB, or is that YouTube with all the messages redacted thing? I guess it doesn't really matter, but I mean, I saw the messages prior, but it's just kind of weird because I just hope. I guess why I'm asking is I hope it's not on my end. But my end. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Leon Edwards, and we'll see where his career goes from here. But what else? What else? I'm really excited. I'm really excited about Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez. That's going to be a good one. I think Gene Silva's another one of those guys that I think will be champion. I'm very confident that before his career is all said and done, Gene Silva will become a champion. I think Topuria will KO round 2 against Arman. I agree. I think Arman's the toughest fight for Topuria out of Patty and Gaethje. Out of him, Patty and Gaethje, he'll probably last the longest. Well, I don't know if he'll last the longest, but he'll give the toughest challenge to Topuria. But as I said, I kind of just think Topuria is inevitable. And yes, maybe early on Arman can wrestle and maybe find some takedowns. He does. He does have very good wrestling. He's probably the best wrestler at 155. Now that Islam's not there, but eventually Topuria is going to be able to stop takedowns. He'll be able to utilize footwork, cut off the cage, and if he lands on Arman, he'll definitely knock him out. Arman's good. He's explosive, but he doesn't have a great chin. He got rocked before, and yeah, Arman got rocked bad a few fights ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got rocked by a significantly less powerful striker. So less powerful and also less skilled striker. So if he was able to do, I actually don't remember who it was, but if they were able to do it, then Topuria will definitely be able to rock Arman. Now, listen. I think the game plan is going to be smarter for Arman. I think he knows he can't really strike with Topuria, so he's going to look to heavily wrestle. He normally does in most of his fights, but especially against Topuria, I think he's going to heavily wrestle. But as I said, eventually Topuria is going to be able to stop takedowns and force the fight to be on the feet. And at that point, I think he'll have a lot of success. And I think he'll put a combo together, knock him out. And yeah, I think in terms of game plans, Patty or Arman are going to have good game plans going into their fights. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to have good game plans. But for Gaethje, I think Gaethje's going to just run into the fire, fight like he normally does, and get knocked out in a similar way to what what happened to Charles Oliveira. Topuria is just a little bit too good. He's a little bit too technical, and he hits a little bit too hard for you to just just go into the pocket with this guy. So we'll see what happens, but I do agree with you, MB. I do think that Topuria is eventually going to find a knockout. If it's round 2, if it's round 3, 4, 1, who knows? I think it'll eventually happen though. But yeah. Who else we got? Talking about guys that I think are going to be very good. So yeah, let's talk about some young up-and-comers that I think are going to be really good. Vinicius Oliveira, he's fighting this weekend. I think he's one of those guys. For Vinicius, I think he's talented for sure. I have a video coming out tomorrow, actually, about Vinicius Oliveira, a little bit more in depth if you guys are interested in that. But for Vinicius Oliveira, he obviously is talented. He's a good striker, but a reason for why I think he's going to be really good for 135 pounds is he's just very physical. He can take a shot really well. He hits pretty hard, and he kind of just pushes through things. His cardio is pretty good as well. So I think that's going to be a real benefit to him. I think he's going to beat Kyler Phillips. I think he's just going to tire out Kyler Phillips and really pull away late, maybe even find a finish in the tail end of the second round or maybe the third round. But yeah, I think the physicality is going to be a big factor for Vinicius, and I think he's going to, as I said, beat Kyler Phillips and slowly move throughout the rankings, beating a lot of other guys as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes top 5 guy, honestly. Michael Morales is a great talent. I think he wins against Ian Garrett. Yes, I also have a video about this on my channel already. Michael Morales is the dark horse of 170. Michael Morales is really good. Not too many people talk about Michael Morales, but he's really good. In terms of his technical ability, he's not like the most technical guy out there, but he is still young and he is getting better. But the reason for why I think Morales is going to be really good is he's so physical. I mean, he's bigger than anybody at 170. He hits very hard. He's very long, but he can land a lot of shots at range. And against Ian Gary, I actually think this is kind of a nightmare matchup for Ian. Morales is pretty hard to get to take down, and if you do take him down, he kind of just gets right back up. And on the feet, yes, Ian Gary does do a great job at staying relatively safe, but also Michael Morales is going to have probably a pretty significant reach advantage on Ian Gary, and Ian Gary he tends to pull back on a lot of shots, and you're not going to be able to do that against a straight left or a jab from Michael Morales. So I think Morales is a very difficult fight for Ian Gary, and I think he'll win. And for Michael Morales overall, I think this guy is going to become a champion. Almost a guarantee. I think Gene Silva and Michael Morales are the two guys that I think are almost guaranteed to become a champion before their careers are all said and done. They're both just very physical. Gene Silva is also ridiculously skilled. For Morales, obviously, as I said, he's not like ridiculously technical or anything, but he is a good striker, and he's bigger than everybody else at the weight class. He hits really hard, and I just think his physical tools and his chin's also pretty good. So I just think his physical tools are a huge advantage for him against most of these other guys. But yeah. But yeah, boys, apologize. I actually have to leave at 8. We got four more minutes. We'll continue to stream until 8. But yeah, I got to dip out a little bit early today. That's why I hopped on the stream early. Normally I stream at 8 p.m., but I hopped on a little bit earlier today because I had to dip out at 8. But yeah, Morales he's going to be good. He's going to be really good. I don't know who they'll put him up against next. I know you say him versus Ian Gary. I could see them putting that fight together. That'll be, a pretty good test. Morales is 7, Ian's 6. For Morales, I can even see him against Leon Edwards. Morales will beat Leon most likely. Maybe you could do Morales or Shavkat. That'd be an amazing fight. Morales or Shavkat is ridiculously good fight. It's two guys that are just ridiculously physical and also pretty aggressive, and who can come out on top in the end. Honestly, I know it's probably not going to happen because Shavkat, earned the title shot, and I also saw him talking about the fact that that he doesn't want to fight anybody else outside of a title fight. So probably it won't happen, but Morales versus Shavkat would be an amazing fight. Morales versus Sean Brady is another fight that I think is good. I think Morales would win. I know Brady has great wrestling when he's on top, but he doesn't have the best shot in the world. And for Morales, I think he'll be able to stop takedowns. And even if he does get taken down, Morales has shown a really good ability to pop right back up. Against Brady, it'll be much tougher than against other guys for sure. And I wouldn't be shocked if Brady controls Morales. But if Morales can stop takedowns from Sean Brady and the fight is forced to be on the feet, it's going to be a nightmare for Sean Brady. His striking just isn't nearly as good as Morales, and the range is going to be a big issue for Brady, and Brady's chin is not really that good, and the power of Morales is going to be a big problem in that sense as well. So there's a lot of guys ahead of Michael Morales that I think he would beat just based upon physicality and size alone. As I said, he's the biggest guy at 170. I wouldn't be surprised if before his career is all said and done that he moves up to middleweight. He's probably a middleweight that's fighting at welterweight. So he has a big advantage in terms of that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, Carlos Prates is another guy that I'm looking at. I mean, obviously Prates is a relatively big name at this point, but I think he's going to be good. I know he took the setback versus Ian Gary, but he actually almost finished Ian in the 5th round. And I think there's a lot of guys at welterweight that Carlos can beat. His next fight is against Jeff Neal. I think Prates will beat Jeff Neal. I think he'll finish him. And yeah, I'm pretty high in his career. I was always high in Benoit Saint Denis, but obviously some of his more recent performances haven't been amazing. For Benoit, the reason why I was so high in him was because he was so physical. Kind of a similar reason to why I was so high on Michael Morales. But for Benoit, he does a great job at, overwhelming his opponents, landing big shots, getting takedowns relatively easily. He's a very good wrestler. And even at times when he does get taken down, he did a great job at just reversing position very easily and getting back to his feet, or just reversing position and getting back on top. So I thought based upon that, Benoit was going to be really good. And I think the UFC agreed with me when they put him up against Dustin Poirier. But obviously Poirier was able to finish Morales, and Morales was able to finish Benoit, and his career's at a different spot at this point. And obviously Benoit lost a couple of fights in a row. He won a fight. He won a fight recently, but I thought Benoit really didn't look good. And I'm a guy who's a pretty big fan of Benoit. I thought Benoit really didn't look good in his last fight. Did you see what's your Common Sports background? Nothing. I don't train anything. I just I guess probably where I started to become an MMA fan was Conor versus Khabib. That's probably where I started to become an MMA fan. But I wasn't like really hardcore or anything. I watched Conor Khabib. I was very excited for that. But after that card, it kind of tailed out. I was kind of focused a little bit more on other sports. But in 2019, I got more into the UFC, and at that point, I started to watch more fights, and I really started to like the sport, and I became someone who watches every card, even like shitty Apex cards I've been watching. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at this point. But in terms of training, I don't train at this point. I was talking about it a little bit before with MB. I'm thinking about training. There's a pretty good gym, relatively close to me, Ray Longo's gym. So I was thinking about training there. It'll be really cool just to learn a couple things and learn how to fight a little bit. But at this point, I don't train anything. Just been watching. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for joining the stream. I do apologize. I do have to cut this stream off a little bit early. I got to dip out soon. I can take you under my wing if you like. Yeah, sure. Teach me everything you know. But yeah, thanks everybody so much for joining the stream. I really appreciate you guys for being here. I really appreciate all your guys' questions. Tomorrow I'll be streaming at the regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to be on the lookout. Peace out, brother. Thanks for joining the stream, by the way. So anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also be sure to be on the lookout for a video coming out tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow, brother or boys. Peace out.